Am I my heart? Like if I took my heart out of my chest and like put it on the table, would you be like, oh, there's Monlam, there's me? No.
I also wonder how we can be more detached from people we feel attached.
I think that attachment is harder to work with than the anger.
Oh. Well, the advantage of being a nun is who do you side? You side with none of the above. Haha.
That's right. That's
Stupid,
right.
stupid. Yet another stupid joke. Friends, welcome to episode 22 of Vibe with Venerables. 1 hour of live dharma and dialogue where you get to talk directly to a respected venerable. I'm Ming, co-founder of Buddhism-dot.net and your host. Our teacher today is Venerable Thubten Monlam. Venerable Monlam's journey began in 2014 when she listened to a Dharma talk in her hometown of Carbondale, Colorado. For those who don't know where Carbondale is, it's between Borondale and Nitrogendale, according to the periodic table. No, I'm kidding. Don't look it up. It's a stupid joke. Venerable Monlam eventually moved to Sarvasti Abbey in 2021 and received Bhikshuni ordination in March of 2024. At the Abbey, Venerable Monlam is a part of the community care team. She assists in the kitchen, and she helps edit Dharma materials. The topic today continues to be equanimity. Venerable Monlam will talk about how we see ourselves and others more realistically in a more balanced way. And today will be the closing session on equanimity and also the last of our 14-week series on the four immeasurables with Sarvasti Abbey. Oh, we're going to miss you all. So as usual, Venerable will speak for roughly 30 minutes and then answer your questions live. As a reminder, this session will be recorded and uploaded on the YouTube later. And if you're comfortable doing so, we'd like to invite you to turn your camera on so that Venerable can see your lovely faces on the screen in front of her. With that, Venerable, can we invite you to start with the opening prayer?
Yeah, let's take a minute to settle into our space. And we'll start with the refuge and bodhicitta verses. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. We'll do some breathing meditation here for a couple of minutes to allow ourselves to bring our bodies and our minds right here to the present moment. Give yourself permission to push pause on thoughts of what happened earlier today, or what's going to happen later. And allow yourself to just notice your breath as it moves in and out of the body. And for our motivation today, let's imagine what it would be like to be in the presence of the Buddha. The Buddha is someone who has perfected the four immeasurables. Imagine that the Buddha is in the space in front of you, looking at you with this incredible unconditional love. Only wanting you to be happy. And the Buddha just exudes this great compassion. Wanting you to be free from all suffering, all dissatisfaction. And feel the equanimous joy coming from the Buddha in the space in front. This joy that delights so much when good things happen to you, when things go your way, when something you've been working hard for finally comes to be. The Buddha is celebrating and rejoicing in all the wonderful things that you have in your life. And the Buddha also embodies this quality of equanimity, where the Buddha relates to each and every sentient being with this same unconditional love, this attitude of great compassion. Oh, and it's empathic joy. I said equanimous joy, I think, but it's empathic joy. Really rejoicing at the good things that others experience. The Buddha looks at each and every sentient being with this kind of warm-heartedness. And let's connect with that potential in ourselves. That we also want others to be happy and to be free from suffering. and connect with that fulfilling feeling of empathic joy, of really rejoicing when someone that has worked hard for something gets it, when someone's outstanding quality really shines through, not responding with jealousy, but just being so delighted that they have gotten something that's important to them. And our potential to develop this equanimity that sees all sentient beings in this open-hearted way. Just take a moment and imagine what that might be like to balance our attachment and our anger, and instead be able to see each and every sentient being with respect, just because they exist. So let's use our time tonight to invest in the development of our equanimity specifically, and our good qualities in general. Because when we're able to have this more balanced and peaceful, contented mind, we are able to act in ways that really support others and help others be happy. And this brings incredible meaning and joy and happiness to our own life. And so it only brings benefit to develop these excellent qualities in ourselves. And how wonderful we've met with the Buddha's teachings. And so we have these specific instructions on how to do so. And so with that as our motivation, we will continue to explore equanimity.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So we've been spending the past number of months going through these four immeasurables, and took a moment to just review them in the motivation. And it just is so inspiring to me, thinking like, what would it be like to carry these attitudes into my daily life? What would it feel like to see others through these eyes of, love and compassion, joy and equanimity, instead of, my typical like judgments, assumptions, criticisms. There's the occasional, gratitude in there, but, my mind is so filled with other things. And yeah, thinking about this potential is so inspiring of how that could free up a lot of energy to really benefit others if I'm not just so spinning around and ruminating about like what's bothering me and that I'm tired and, all these other things. But yeah, what it would be like to abide in these four immeasurables. This immeasurable equanimity is a steadiness of mind. It is tranquility in the midst of whatever environment we find ourselves in, no matter what kind of treatment we're receiving from others. It is relaxed and receptive and free of fear or clinging. With equanimity, there is space to appreciate everything. It's a calming attitude that helps us live harmoniously connected to our own heart and to others. And to really develop equanimity, we need to understand karma, that we the law of cause and effect, that we are going to meet with the results of the causes that we create. And so there's no need to blame others for any sort of misfortune that we experience. And also, we don't need to get so attached and like hyper elated when we meet with some kind of success, because like we've created the causes for what we experience. And so we can keep this more balanced mind instead of getting so emotionally wrapped up with the good and the bad. And then also seeing, that the happiness and suffering that others experience is the result of their actions. The mind of equanimity can maintain balance when we see others happy or experiencing misery. And so it doesn't mean that we don't care and don't have compassion for others when we see they're experiencing suffering. It's not used as this way to blame of like, well, you created those causes, so you suffer and I have a balanced mind. It's more that we don't go into this like kind of personal distress, like that it's so, because it's really difficult to see others suffering. But with this mind of equanimity, we can see it in a more vast way that, things came about due to many causes and conditions. Things are constantly changing. So whatever's happening now, it may not get better necessarily, but it will change eventually. And so, yeah, this mind of equanimity can stay balanced even when confronted with other people's suffering. And each of the four immeasurables has what's called the near enemy, which is like, it looks like it's that quality, but it's not. And so the near enemy of equanimity is indifference or cold apathy, kind of having an equal amount of not caring about all sentient beings. But when we look at the four immeasurables, we see that it is not a lack of caring. We see that it's this very warm-heartedness, this love and compassion that we're developing equally for all beings. And then the far enemy of equanimity is the opposite. And so the opposite of equanimity is our dear afflictions, attachment, bias, and anger. And so last week, Venerable Monlam went through a meditation that we do kind of to lay the ground and prepare our minds and ourselves to really develop bodhicitta, developing equanimity in relationship to our friends, our enemies, and strangers. And she led a really nice reflection to encourage us to see how we relate to others very much in like, because how they act towards me and towards my loved ones and towards the things that I care about. The people who are nice to me, I put in the friend category. The people who, don't really do what I want them to do and kind of annoy me, I put them in the enemy category. And, people who I don't even know and I might pass on the street or see in the grocery store, why should I care about them? They're strangers. And she explored the fact that, these views of others, they're really coming from our own perceptions, that others don't really exist in the way that we perceive them to. And when we do this, when we put folks, kind of in these categories that we might not do intentionally. I know that as I was learning this practice, I was really hesitant to think of like someone as my enemy. Like, I love everybody. I don't have enemies. I don't have difficult people. But when I could be a little bit more honest and see, kind of the grating quality, the agitation that would come up in my mind towards some folks, it became more clear that like, okay, I don't think of them as enemies necessarily, but there's people that I resonate with and there's people that I find challenging. So, whatever language works for you when, thinking about these different categories of friend, enemy, and stranger, you can use anyone, but yeah, if you are like me and think that maybe you don't have any enemies or difficult people, that is wonderful. I hope that is the case. And you might also find that the more you look into it, the more some people there's just not that same connection as others. So we can work with that, and we can see that this is coming from our own mind and our own judgment, and that it limits our view. We're not seeing this person as a complete person when we are, exaggerating their good qualities, seeing how amazing and wonderful and perfect they are. Or on the other hand, seeing how annoying and incompetent and, lazy. We can exaggerate their negative qualities too. And, this doesn't appreciate really the fullness of the person. Because if we met this person in a different situation, we would probably have a different relationship with them. If there was some sort of person that we really don't get along with, that we can't stand, this coworker. But let's say we met them just at a bus station one day and, just kind of struck up a conversation that wasn't filled with so much baggage that we have with them now, we would probably see them in a totally different light. And so we really are working to suspend our judgment of others and dissolve these categories of friend, enemy, and stranger, and instead see kind, sentient beings who are immersed in and overwhelmed by their afflictions here in samsara, and who are just like us in wanting to be happy and free from suffering. And in the Mahayana tradition, we then continue to build on this kind of base of equanimity of the friend, enemy, and stranger as we develop this open-heartedness towards all of them. And we kind of bump it up. It comes up again as we're developing bodhicitta in the meditation to equalize ourself and others. Because okay, we can see that, our friends also have some faults, our enemies have good qualities, the strangers, they actually help us. They are the people that check us out in the grocery store. They're the farmers who grow our food. We can see that the strangers actually are quite kind. But then we put ourselves into this picture because we tend to think of ourselves as like the center of the universe. My happiness is more important than others, and my pain and suffering is more pronounced, is more severe, is more important to deal with than others. And so this next step of developing equanimity is really equalizing ourself and others to see that we're all important. We all think that we're the center of the universe. And so how do I decrease my own kind of self-centered attitude so that I can, embrace others with a more warm and open heart? And this self-centered attitude really gets in our way. It is the source really of all of our problems. It's the kind of mind where we are constantly comparing ourselves to others. How do we match up? How do we fit in? Who am I better at? Who do I look better than? Who am I smarter than? Who is better at me, at cooking or art? We're constantly comparing ourselves. And then we judge ourselves, we're judging others. We're never really good enough. And then even when we're the best, the satisfaction from that only lasts a little while because we have to then keep being the best or else someone's right there to be the best on top of us. And so this self-centered attitude is really it's a troublemaker. It is where a lot of our projections are coming as we develop attachment towards those who, favor us, and aversion and hatred towards those who, we don't like. And it comes from a misperception about how we exist. We see ourselves as, kind of, this objective person. There's some sort of quality that is me, that's part of me, that makes me me. And we cling to this idea and develop attachment to me and I and those things that belong to me, that are my and mine. And then by clinging to this incorrect view of ourselves, then we have the attachment for our loved ones, and we have aversion for those who we see as threatening. And so we are cultivating equanimity to like even out this playing field. And actually see that we all are misperceiving ourselves. This is kind of the lens, the glasses that we're all wearing are these like glasses of ignorance and this self-centered attitude that sees ourselves really solid. Um, and then so everyone's walking around seeing ourselves as these, kind of objectively existent people. And then kind of like on the flip side, how we are all equal is that we all have this Buddha potential, um, not existing in the way that we think we do. Because if we try to like look for ourselves, like, who am I? Um, am I my body? Am I my heart? Like if I took my heart out of my chest and like put it on the table, would you be like, oh, there's Monlam, there's me? No. And then, we can think like, am I my mind? But then, it's like, well, am I my ideas? Am I my anger? Am I my love and compassion? And so, the more we look, we see that this like me-ness that, this thing that is I that we're pretty sure exists, when we look for it, we can't find it. And that all beings exist in this way. We can open up our perspective and see that that the person that we think is such a real jerk, they also like, what is it about them that is the jerk? Is it their voice? Is it the words, the sounds that they're making? Um, or is it my perception of them when they say these words and these sounds and have these facial expressions? Where is that jerk that I'm so convinced exists? So when we really get clear that our self-centeredness is, part of this projection, and we can work to decrease it and see ourselves more realistically, we can loosen up this attachment and favoritism to those that we like, and the aversion, the tension between those that we don't like. And so there is a meditation that continues, where we really look at this equality of all wanting to have happiness and be free from suffering. And we can connect with our own deep yearning for this, how much we are yearning for just this like contentment and peace. Like when we're in pain, how the mind can get so consumed with my pain, we just want to be free from it. And we can, really remember and kind of look at others and see that all of them, like every other being, even like the bugs and the animals, all want to have happiness deeply and want to be free from suffering equally. And so instead of just being so focused on working for our own happiness, we can start to look at how can I support the happiness of others? How can I try to remove the suffering of others and want to really benefit all beings equally? Not just those that I like or those that I don't like or strangers, but, not be so focused on myself and really reach out equally to others, seeing that we all want happiness and to be free from suffering. And then we can also look at the kindness that we receive from others and examine that it is only due to others' kindness that we are alive, that our person, people who raised us, they provided us with incredible safety when we were a helpless baby. And we, eat probably every day. And people are, working very hard to grow our food and to transport it, to sell it, to prepare it. We have clothes that others made, and we are in buildings and, have some buffering from the elements. And so when we reflect on the incredible kindness that we have received from others, and we kind of like put that in comparison to the harm that we've received, we can see that it's quite unbalanced. The harm we received is really quite small compared to the incredible kindness that we have that we live within. And so this can help us release resentment and judgment and the anger, that hot, burning anger that we're holding on to because someone did something to us that harmed us, because that mindset isn't helpful. And it is detrimental to our own spiritual practice to hold on to that anger. And it's not realistic because we see the incredible kindness around us. And life, is quite unpredictable. We don't know, when we're going to die. And so the more that we can, let go of our anger and see the kindness around us, this is going to support this wish to help others arise in our heart. And our wish to, support others and reach out when we can let go of our anger and resentment. And then the third way that we can work to cultivate equanimity in this equalizing ourself and others meditation is by seeing like from the Buddha's perspective. The Buddha does not see any inherently existent friend, enemy, or stranger. The Buddha sees that we are all these like dependent arisings. We are all dependent on the egg and the sperm of our parents. We are dependent on all the food that we've eaten in our life. We are dependent on the education and the medical support that we've received. And so the Buddha sees this incredible dependent arising that is each being. The Buddha doesn't see, this person who's doing harmful things as a jerk. The Buddha sees this person has a lot of different causes and conditions that are contributing to their attitude, and still sees that they want to be happy and free from suffering. And we can also see that these labels that we use are very relational. This label of I that we're so familiar with, actually every single one of us thinks of ourselves as I. And we look at each other and say, hey, there's you, there's other people. And so without others, how could I have this label of I? And then without other people, then how could you have that label of I? So it really just depends on our perspective, who is the I and who is the other person. And it is, it gets towards, and one of the illustrations that I like of this is also one of my favorite Buddhist jokes. And so I will tell you, you have probably heard it. There is a person who's hiking and they are lost in the woods. They come across this really deep canyon and they're pretty sure they have to get to the other side. And luck would have it, they see someone on the other side. And so they shout over to that person, how do I get to the other side? And that person yells back to them, you are on the other side. And so, we see that these labels, this side of the canyon and the other side of the canyon, all depend on our perspective. And so in this way, we see that there is really no difference between ourselves and others. We all think I am I and you are you. Um, and that label of I, it seems to be so strong in each of us. But really, it's just this label that we use to define ourselves. There's nothing solid about it because you don't look at me and think I. You look at me and say you. But wait, I'm I, right? Who am I? Who are you? And so seeing this, we can really then again, work to dissolve this feeling of partiality, that favors ourself and our dear ones, and work to open our heart, to respect and cherish all beings. And so we might not, we definitely won't. We won't act the same towards everyone. This isn't what the equanimity is getting us to do. We're not acting the same, but we are having the same sort of like open heart. Because, we act towards each other, that's in line with, social rules and our culture. And, I am going to give a 5-year-old a different level of trust than I'm going to give, a 50-year-old. But I can still think of both of those. I can still have this attitude of equanimity that really wants both of them to be happy and free from suffering, and be wise in doing whatever I can to support them in that aspiration. And as we do this, we see that by cherishing others and having this open-hearted attitude, this brings us a lot of meaning and purpose in our own life. And so it's not like we're giving things up. It's not like by cherishing others, it's actually an advantage to ourself. It's not that we are sacrificing ourself for others. I have a quick example this morning. We do dishes here at the Abbey. Everyone helps with dishes once a day. And so this morning before our breakfast, I was, on the list to do dishes before breakfast. And then there's a team that comes in after breakfast. But someone came and joined me from the breakfast dish team to do dishes before breakfast. And I knew, I'm like, oh, if you're doing dishes now, that means there's not enough people that are going to be on that team after breakfast. And so I thought, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to come back after breakfast and I'm not going to get enough space to do what I need to do. And da, 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 da. But, I walked in after breakfast and I helped with the dishes. And it just felt so good to like help the team. And I know that if I hadn't done that, if I had just come back and started, doing my own personal things, I would be thinking like, oh gosh, I should be helping with the dishes. I know they don't have enough people. But instead, it was like just very joyful to go and extend myself in this small way to, help the team be able to do what they needed to do. And so, yeah, it's really nice that as we develop these immeasurable attitudes, we are really supporting our own happiness and well-being. And so it's really this win-win for all of us. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to share over these past number of months. And yeah, I really hope that you are all inspired to continue to develop this great love and compassion and empathic joy and equanimity, and see what impact it has on your life and your relationship with others.
Thank you so much, Venerable. So, before we start our discussion, let's do a little bit of reflection and take a minute to absorb and digest the teachings. So let's take a moment to breathe and reflect on what we just learned. How does it relate to our lives? and how do we want to apply this in our lives? Thank you. Let's begin our discussion. So if you have any questions for Venerable or any reflections you want to share with Venerable, please feel free to use the hand raising function of Zoom, and then I will ask you to unmute yourself. So while waiting for the question, Venerable, the joke you told just now reminds me of a joke that I used to tell. Like when I first came to America, people always ask me, "Do you speak a foreign language?" I say, "Yes, English." Duh. So Venerable, I have a question for you. Uh, So through this practice, are there people or is there any specific person that you want to talk about who you find challenging before, but through this practice you no longer found challenging?
Yeah, yeah. And maybe I'm pretty ordinary. I'm still in process of not finding, them challenging in general, but I have these tools to go back to.
Mm.
And so there's, one person, I'm from a small town, Carbondale. It's actually not found on the periodic table. It's
It's
in
not next to
between Glenwood
nitrogen
Springs
dale.
and Aspen. I thought you knew that, and then you
I
fooled
knew,
me.
I knew that.
Um, and so, I'm from a small town, and a friend of mine used to run the community radio station there. And I thought he was doing a great job. This person's great. But clearly, there were some people in the community that disagreed with that. And, two people in particular that were really moving, made a lot of effort to get this person fired. And
Ooh.
so they fired my friend, those jerks. And doing this meditation, and it actually has been over the years, that I come back to this character and I do this meditation with them. Um, something that really stood out to me is looking at the kindness of others. Because we're from a small town. And so, yes, this person did something that I really disagree with, or I call him a jerk for that. But then I can also see how many other community projects this person supports, that is benefiting the community. And I had a friend and they, they're neighbors with this person who all just label the jerk. And I was like, oh yeah, gosh, what's that like? And he's like, oh, he's really helpful. We had these issues in our community, and this person was like a leader to help us solve these problems. And so, yeah, really seeing how my mind grasps onto, these qualities that I don't like and explodes them, and really how unbalanced that is, and seeing this person in a more full way. Just, yeah, like I said, it's a work in progress to really be completely, open-hearted. But it gets there, when I can expand my view and see that I'm really, coming from this afflicted place of being really angry. I was attached to having something happen that didn't happen. I was attached to my friend being in that job. And when that changed, I got really angry at the person who I blamed it on. Um, and the mind just gets so tight and narrow. But then, to be able to expand it out by seeing the kindness of others, by seeing things as dependent arisings coming together for many different causes and conditions. And by seeing that this person really does want to be happy, like they're doing the best they can with what they've got. They thought this was a really good move. Just helps me keep coming back. Yeah, opening that perspective. And really it does dissolve that anger and that hate. And I do think actually much more fondly about that person now than I used to. So yes, these like cumulative changes over time.
Thank you. Would anybody mind if I share a story? It relates to what you just said. So I was in a company and let's just I'm not gonna name names. So this person, his name was Sam, fake name, right? And so he's in our team, but he serves our team. So in the big company, they have teams that serve each other. So your clients are somebody else from the same company, another team. So we're a client, this other team. Let's call him Sam. And I really like that guy. And partly because we became friends, but partly because he's always going over and above the job description. When we have a problem, he was just like move mountains to solve our problems. So I really like this guy. And then that team has a reorg, and then a new boss came in from outside. They hired this guy, and new boss. And the first week or whatever, this new boss fired my friend Sam. Yeah, I mean, he didn't just kick him out because, I mean, he was given notice. Yeah, out in a month or something. So I got so pissed. And I had the same thing in my mind. Okay, I run a story of this person, Sam's boss. It must be like this guy, that guy. But fortunately, I had a practice. So I took out my practice toolbox and did all the practices that you talked about. And I calmed down and I talked nicely. I got to know Sam's boss. I sent an email. I said, I know this is uncomfortable. I hope you don't mind if we talk about this. To his credit, he said yes. We sat in the meeting room. I introduced myself. I told my story. And then we talked about, my friend Sam. And I said, I didn't say you asshole, but I said, look, we really like him. Everyone on our team liked him because he did this for us, blah, blah, blah. And then I learned new data. I learned that from our point of view, Sam was great. From his team's point of view, it's the same thing that he did for us caused problems because he kept missing the team's goals because he's giving all his time to us, the clients. And so from his team's perspective, he starts not meeting their team goals. And so they will annoy him. And so the new boss came, yeah, okay, let's fire people. Right? And so I said, oh, so we both learned something. So I learned, oh, and then Sam's new boss learned something. Oh, everybody outside loves Sam because he does that. He goes above and beyond. And so we had an understanding. And that resolved the situation. So Sam got unfired. But he was given a warning, like, please don't do, no. I mean, there's things you have to do. Your team goals, those are important. And he did that. He got his message. Everything worked. And Sam's boss, I won't name names, but to this day, we're still friends. So we started with a situation that it could be very bad. We could be enemies. But because of these practices, like we were friends like from day one and continue to this day. So I want to thank you for these practices. Let's see. Right now, there's still no questions. I'll ask another one. So this one is actually harder for me, Venerable. This is a prompt for me. Anger, I can resolve by my toolbox, right? There's one problem I have which I haven't been able to resolve, and that's impatience. So unfortunately, I'm the boss. Oh, right. And so the thing is, people I work with, they are my friends, and partly because I like to hire people I know, partly because people who work with me eventually become my friends. I'm that type of person. So I like to think that I know the people who work with me holistically. I know them as human beings. These are my friends, people I like. And still, when it comes to work, I get impatient. And so my question for you, Venerable, I'm wondering, I don't know the answer yet. I'm wondering if patience is a quality that changes with how you see the other person holistically or not. Or whether you see, I mean, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't change. Maybe if you see the person holistically, you're still impatient. I don't know. So that's my question for you. Does that change? And if it's not directly related, is there then a solution to impatience?
Well, I think that it can be related because, I think impatience, you say that you can work with anger, which is good because I think impatience is a form of anger because you have some sort of expectation that you want that's not being met. And so then, you get impatient, which is kind of this like kind of grating, like feeling. And how that can relate to equanimity, could, kind of come back to like seeing ourselves like, is it, this driving of this impatience is probably pretty related to like I me and mine, like what I want to do my job, for, of course, the things that you do are benefiting others, but you want them on my timeline. So perhaps there's some space to look at, like, what's going on with this other person? Like, what is it? What's going on that these expectations aren't being met? Are they realistic expectations or not? And so yeah, kind of equalizing your priorities with the priorities of others. What are the priorities of the people that are working for you? Maybe it's quality over speed, who knows? They do a really amazing job. They just take, a longer time than you would like. So yeah, perhaps seeing that kind of impatience is likely driven from a bit of like me, I, and mine. And maybe there's some room to kind of soften that from there, seeing that others have their priorities too. And yeah, and like you said, there's that room for conversation also, like you just had before. Like there's probably perspectives that are being missed because we see things just through, our more narrow lens. So maybe there's that space for conversation and more understanding of what's going on for you and them and that kind of sharing.
Thank you. That's helpful. Okay, Dr. Chang has a question.
So you discussed about what to do with people we don't like. But I also wonder how we can be more detached from people we feel attached. For example, like families, kids, or close friends or partners. I think to keep equanimity towards all the people, maybe, yeah, I also want to be kind of less attached to the people I care about too much. Yeah. Any advice? Yeah, please
Yeah,
share
this
it.
is a very good question. And I think that attachment is harder to work with than the anger.
Oh, fascinating. Say more.
Because it's just, this like bubble gum, we're just drawn to these people that we have that attachment to. And I think one way that we can work with that the equanimity can really support us there is I guess, in part of it, I think of like um what is a wise way to, support this person to be happy and free from suffering? Because when we are attached to someone, we might want to give them everything, we can because they want it. But maybe that's not the best thing for them. Like, perhaps we have a friend who, just always likes to, go to the movies and they're kind of trashy. They're fun sometimes, but there's not a lot of meaningful messages in the movies. And so instead of, this mind of like, oh, I want to make my friend happy, so I'm just going to go with her to the movies, maybe the equanimity could, see her like, oh, what are the other things that she might like to do? What are some other ways that, we could do something fun together that's um kind of contributes to developing our good qualities, that's beneficial to others instead of just always doing this like kind of activity that's just about ourselves and going and having a good time. It's one possibility. I think the attachment might need to be, you could probably work with that by seeing that, we all the Buddha doesn't see our friend and our family members as this like amazing thing that we do. And so, kind of like, I guess, and maybe it's more trying to develop, this mind that cares for others, like we care for those who we are attached to. That could be maybe another way to go about it, that we, care about our friends so much, how do we want to, how can we develop a mind that cares for others, in that same way? And we could probably really notice our attachment at that point of like, oh gosh, I don't want to care for others in that way. That's too close. And that might help us, find some sort of like balance in that attachment. But the attachment is it's very powerful. And it is hard to bring more into that equanimous balance. But I think it's more kind of how can I reach out? How can I see others in this same sort of positive view that I see my loved ones?
Okay. Thank you, Jiwon. Venerable, I have a last
Thank
question for
you.
you. It's a follow-up to Jiwon's question, which is, have you been in a situation where you felt attached to somebody and then through a practice became less attached or unattached to this person?
It is a very good question. And I think about my mom, and my
Mm.
mom, my relationship with my mom has definitely evolved, as I've
Mhm.
become a monastic, and we're just less kind of like involved in like the stickiness of our family relations. And, so one thing that happened recently, I don't think any of you guys know my family, so I feel, I'm like, I can share a little bit with you. So something happened with my sister. She doesn't want my mom to know about it. But my sister is talking to my mom's roommate, and my mom is overhearing some weird things where she's like, something's going on with your sister. And so, so I think my mom will ask me, what's going on with your sister? Um, and so, instead of kind of like getting so wrapped up in like, oh my gosh, if I tell my mom what's going on with my sister's going to hate me. If I don't tell my mom what's going on, she's not going to love me so much. She's going to think I'm hiding things. Instead just to have this, view of like, you guys have your stuff to work out. You can talk to each other is kind of this, response. Like you can ask your daughter what's going on, and, I don't need to be involved. I don't need to lie and say I don't know what's happening. But kind of this more, to see that I don't need to go get so tangled up in that family relationship. Um, because I'm not quite as worried about what they're going to think of me or, harming them. But, seeing that this back and forth is not healthy for either of them, that there's pain for both of them, in this situation. And so, how can I just kind of be kind and support them both without getting mixed up into it? I'd
Mm.
say how I'm kind of trying to develop equanimity with two people I have attachment to, my mom and my sister.
Mm. Thank you. Well, the advantage of being a nun is who do you side? You side with none of the above. Haha.
That's right. That's
Stupid,
right.
stupid. Yet another stupid joke. With that, Venerable, can you lead us on a closing dedication and blessing?
Yeah, we can take a minute and just really let's rejoice that we took this time together tonight to explore equanimity. And we can dedicate all the positive potential that we have generated. May it support others and ourselves as we cultivate all of our good qualities, all the way to full awakening. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Friends, let's bow to our teacher. Thank you, Venerable Monlam, for being with us today. So this recording will be uploaded onto Buddhism.net YouTube channel. Like and subscribe and tell all your friends. So for the past few months, the very kind Venerables from Sarasvati Abbey has given us 14 weeks worth of valuable teachings on love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And they did it completely out of kindness and generosity. I mean, they gave us all their time and wisdom, and they didn't ask us for anything at all. So, if you're inspired to practice dana or generosity towards Venerable Monlam or all the other venerables from Sarvasti Abbey, please donate directly to Sarvasti Abbey. We will be sharing the link by chat and by email. And if you'd like to continue to practice with Sarvasti Abbey because you love them so much, good news. They have an upcoming program called Winter Retreat from Afar. I think this is an online retreat, right? We will do with you. You can join Sarvasti Abbey for 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. The topic for this year's retreat will be White Tara and the Four Immeasurables. And again, we'll be sharing the links. Yes, please join them. It's going to be fun. So what's next? So at Buddhism-dot-net, we love having masters from all three major traditions of Buddhism. For the month of November, we will have Bhante Sujato, a great master from the Theravada tradition. Bhante Sujato is the abbot of Lokanta Vihara, which means the end of the world, the monastery at the end of the world. But he's better known as the founder of Sutta Centra, which is the best depository of the early Buddhist texts on the internet. And he made it happen, including the coding. So Bhante Sujato will guide us on how the Buddha dealt with conflict and how we can too. So don't miss it. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. With that, thank you, my friends.